One and only Dan Wisenhunt, and the kids are back to school.
Yay! Kids are back to school. It started this week. My son started 4th grade in DeKalb County schools. Had a great first week so far. Loves his teacher. A great school environment. There's been some hiccups with reopening of schools. This last week, they held the open house, which is where you go and you meet your teachers and you find out what supplies you need. And the parents walked into Kingsley Elementary and discovered it was like 90 degrees in there. And so they contacted all the media, so me and all the TV stations. We all did stories. And DeKalb schools, it will shock you to hear, scrambled to get coolers into those rooms. We heard that on Monday, parents returned to class and found that the conditions were a lot more tolerable with all that press attention. But there are going to be issues like that come out throughout the year. There's still teacher recruitment is still a thing, so I'm interested to find out how many vacancies there were at the start of the year. But yeah, the kids are back. The kids are back in school.
I want to talk to you about this update to the City of Decatur noise ordinance. About to affect possibly daytime noise levels, which we often don't hear about.
Right. So after COVID, when we did the year-long let's everybody work at home thing, you will be surprised to hear that noise complaints went up because in addition to everyone working from home, everybody was ordering stuff off of Amazon. So they got to hear all the leaf blowers that they normally didn't hear. They heard more trucks idling and dropping off deliveries than they normally heard, and it got on people's nerves. So it's prompted this discussion in Decatur. Apparently, noise complaints went up by 17% since COVID started, and it prompted some discussions about how to revise Decatur's noise ordinance to set some limits to sort of limit that noise during the day so people don't have to hear racket throughout the day while they're trying to work from home.
And Dan, this noise ordinance, who exactly are we talking about as far as affected residents?
Just City of Decatur residents in general. They're going through the rewrite process right now. They're getting public input, gathering data, and then it'll be brought before the City Commission at some point, and they will vote on it.
And of course, you'll see that full report and what comes of it on Decaturish.com.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Kirkwood. Bessie Branham Park. What's going on with that? Because we're hearing of a lot of new renovations and projects that are going to get underway. And this is a park that hosts some major events for the community.
No, they host the Spring Fling. It's close to Hosea Williams. It is in many ways the heartbeat of Kirkwood. The neighborhood planning unit has their meetings at the recreation center. They hold events there, concerts and the like. And apparently, as far as anybody can tell, the park has never had a major renovation, and that's what they're going to do. Interesting thing about this story is we're not really sure how much money the city has allocated to this project. We've heard anywhere from hundreds of thousands to millions. I asked Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari's office if they could get us some actual clear numbers about what Parks has set aside for this, and they couldn't. So it's a very interesting situation over there. There are renovations planned, but we don't know. It's sort of a mystery how much is going to be spent. But they're going to redo the playground, which I am told needs to be totally redone, although my kid doesn't seem to have a problem with it.
It's hurting.
Yeah, it's the deck needs to be redone. They're going to build an entrance, I think, in the southwest corner, which is they've never had an entrance. It's really cool to see the community come together. You know, they bought bricks to pay for this. Some of the residents who live there are also contractors and are doing some pro bono work on it. And so within a year, Kirkwood's Bessie Branham Park is going to have a bit of a facelift. What is it? What do the kids call it? A glow up? Is that what it is? Yeah, okay.
Last week we talked to State Senator Kim Jackson about her vision for re-election and really the future of her of District 41 in DeKalb County. She has a Republican candidate running against her, Jeff Newlin, who is going to join us now and talk about some of the key issues that voters will have on their minds as they hit the ballot box this November.
And joining us for this week's episode is Jeff Newlin. Jeff Newlin is the Republican candidate challenging State Senator Kim Jackson in Senate District 41 this November. Mr. Newlin, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you, Dan?
I can't complain. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. So,
Thanks for
Jeff,
having
why
me.
don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us why you're running for Senate District 41 this year?
Yeah, so I'm a 35-year business professional in the technology industry, all of that in Atlanta, Georgia, and 41, been there for 13 years now. And the reason I'm running is a longer story than we're going to get into today. But over the last couple of years, some of the younger folks that I'm associated with have been really concerned about what their future is looking like in the direction of the country, the direction of the political discourse. And I was encouraged to, the good people need to step up and see if we can find a better outcome for everybody. And that's why I decided to step into this in February, very brand new to all this process.
Well, Jeff, we're going to ask you the same questions we asked Senator Jackson last week. And the first one is what is your position on Georgia's 6-week abortion ban?
Yeah, as I understand, it's the Life Act. It's HB 481. And first of all, abortion's a very passionate issue for those that are pro-choice, those that are pro-life. These are deeply held beliefs on both sides. So I don't think it's anything that we're going to solve in one pass of one law. But I am pro-life. I'm a Catholic, and I think we should do everything we can to protect the life of the unborn and the life of all citizens until their natural death. That being said, as I look through the bill and as I understand reading of it, there are provisions there that have reasonable exceptions, I think, for rape and incest, if the life of the mother's in danger, if it's a pregnancy that's not going to end in a fetal birth, and I think it also gives doctors an opportunity within their reasonable judgment to help guide women, their patient, to the right outcomes. But again, I hope we can all agree that we don't want as many abortions, and I hope we can agree that it is a human life. It's a baby that's involved, and I think we should look for all opportunities to assist a mother to continue with the birth and to assist the mother after the birth, so she can get back into a working environment. She's there to help the family get going. So I think there's ways that we can help encourage carrying a full pregnancy to term and to help the family after the birth to accommodate into a family situation.
Well, the mother's life is important too.
Absolutely.
Obviously, in this scenario, Senator Ossoff held a hearing in downtown Decatur a few days ago. There were a lot of stories from OBGYNs who said that doctors being afraid of the potential unknown consequences are actually delaying perhaps life-saving medical care to women. Senator Jackson and I talked about some of the unintended consequences of this law. Does that concern you at all?
It does. Absolutely.
And what would you do about it?
Well, I think we need to come together and have a discussion around why medical professionals that should have, I'm assuming, consulted as part of the process of passing that bill, didn't understand what these consequences might be. And again, I don't think we're at one passing of one law. And if we need to come together and talk about the challenges and problems in a law we pass, and if there are areas where we can assist doctors to make the right decision for the health of the mother, we absolutely should have those conversations.
Switching gears, a contentious issue locally is the issue of annexation and cityhood. There's been attempts to create, they have created the cities of Tucker and Dunwoody. There was a proposal for La Vista Hills that just barely failed. And then there's the city of South DeKalb. And then, of course, you know about the Brookhaven and Chamblee annexation petition. So what will be your approach if you are elected to annexation and cityhood issues in DeKalb County? Well,
I'll continue to look at the reasons why the annexation is being proposed and what the benefits it might bring to the citizens that it would impact. I live in the area that would have been La Vista Hills, and I voted against that. I didn't think it didn't create a main street, it didn't create a city situation, didn't really, I think, create anything other than taxation boundaries. And the reason to bring in additional costs and resources that already provided by DeKalb County. So I was not involved in anything politically around that, but as a citizen, I voted against that. I do think there are areas that we need to look at and address. The way you draw boundaries in cities and annexations, I know there's areas in Doraville where folks are on islands where they're not part of the city. In Clarkston, there's an apartment complex that half of it's in, half of it's out. People's front yard and backyard may or may not be in an actual city. So I think we need to take some common sense approaches to making sure that when boundaries are drawn, they bring in the properties and the property boundaries that make sense. Because there's no reason why any city should be providing resources to a non-city resident who doesn't pay taxes, but maybe adjacent or part of a property that is within the city limits.
Do you think there are advantages to being in a city as opposed to being in unincorporated DeKalb County, and if so, what are they?
I think it's I think as we were talking about La Vista Hills, as I recall, it was more you take more control of our own day-to-day lives, better response from police, fire, EMTs, those very folks that serve us every day. If those situations are true, then that's something to be considered. I would rather look at what the challenges are, what the root cause of those problems are, and fix those there at the county. If it's a response, if we don't have enough first responders, if we have an issue with the 911 system, if there are not enough local precincts or fire stations near where the citizens are, we should look at that first, as opposed to just rushing and saying let's start a new city and put a new police department in place.
So let's say you're elected, somebody who wants to form a new city approaches you and says, we'd like for you to file a bill to create a new city. What are you looking for? What is going to convince you one way or the other to introduce a cityhood bill?
I'll rely on the things I have through my business career. Whether you're making an investment, whether you're deciding to expand, you're trying to grow into a new market, you got first, what's the reason you're doing it in the first place? What problems are you trying to solve, or what opportunities are you trying to address? And so that's the first thing I'm going to look for is there a win-lose in this, or is it the right thing for all the citizens impacted? And work through the process.
So another topic that's very controversial in DeKalb in some places is the issue of homelessness, the unhoused, and tied in with that a little bit is housing affordability. At least anecdotally, there's definitely been an increase in the unhoused and the homeless in DeKalb County and Decatur particularly. If you were elected, what are you going to do to address that? What are you going to do to help cities tackle that issue?
Well, as the at the state level, work things that we can do at that level. There are certain things the cities can do, of course, on their own. Well, first of all, I don't want to compound the problem, and I want to make sure that with the immigration approaches and the ways that we're handling that we're not bringing in more potential those that will be unhoused or homeless. And whatever resources we have going that direction, I'd rather direct it toward those that are already impacted in our communities. But again, I think it goes back to the root cause. Why are folks on the street? Why are they homeless? Why are they unhoused? I think there's severe mental health and drug addiction issues within that community. And I think we should do everything we can to help fund the cities in order to address those root problems. And try to help folks get off. I've done a lot of volunteer work through my life with the homeless and shelters, and seeing those that need a hand up, not a handout. They're looking for a place to stay. They're looking for meals. They're trying to get back on their feet to get a job. There's a whole nother set of those that are unhoused that are working hard to get back into the community, and we should encourage everything we can to help them do that.
Last topic. Expanding Medicaid. Healthcare continues to be a challenge for a lot of Georgians, a lot of Americans. What's your position on expanding Medicaid? I know that the state did a sort of limited expansion that had a work requirement. There's been some evidence that maybe that work requirement is a barrier to people getting access to it. What's your approach to this topic going to be if you're elected?
Yeah, so I think we have about 709,000 Georgia citizens are on Medicaid today, and helping those folks out. But I think the Pathways program only has 4,000 or so that have been signed up. I think those are statistics from the AJC. That's nowhere near enough. So again, I think we need to look at what are the qualification requirements. As I understand it, it's 80 hours a month that you have to be engaged in part-time or full-time work, or student, or pursuing a vocational degree or so forth. So I think there are things we can take a look at and find out what's prohibiting those from getting involved in a private insurance role. I think the 290,000 folks that aren't covered. Again, I go back to the root cause. Why do we have 290,000 people below the poverty level? I think there's a lot more that we can do with jobs and with getting folks back into a situation where they're working and they're, I think, feeling that they're more productive, fulfilled citizens, within the state. But again, there are things that we can do to help folks get through the hard times they have and help them, as I said, it's get a hand up, not a handout, to get back and establish their lives so that they can afford the insurance and they're making a living wage.
So would you support expanding Medicaid or no?
I think we probably need to look at expanding Medicaid as a safety net. But I do like the part of Pathways that encourages each individual to take responsibility and accountability for themselves, seek to find work. I don't think we want to create it where it's a lifelong entitlement that anyone gets just if they're below the poverty level. I like the approach to have a safety net, but also encourage those to get back and be accountable and responsible for their own selves.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's interview. This is the Decatur Dish Show. We air every Tuesday at 12:30 on ANF Plus. If you watch this interview, be sure to check out our interview with the incumbent state senator Kim Jackson. She's the incumbent state senator for Senate District 41. That is on ANF Plus as well. You can find all of our elections coverage at DecaturishVotes.com, and you can find all of your local news about DeKalb County at Decaturdish.com. Until then, we hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.